Hello and welcome back into the studio for this month's Technique Tuesday. This is kind of an interesting technique. This is something I did years and years ago, and I was like, we'll see how this works, and I loved it. So we are gonna play with really heavy watercolor paper, water, and ink. So what I did years ago was I took some 22 by 36 sheets of watercolor paper and ripped them in half. And then I took them outside and laid them on a cement pad and took my hose and saturated them. And then I went outside and I took different elements. So I took big brushes of all different kinds, and I took a squeegee, and I took an eyedropper and a pipette, and I then squirted ink all over it. Now, at the time I used India ink. We're gonna actually use some P.H. Martin's technical drying ink. We're also gonna try some acrylic ink and see how, or acrylic ink, and see how it responds. I made 4 sheets of this, 4 sheets, half sheets of the 22 by 36 back in I think it was 2015. And this is all I have left. Now this was after I watered all 4 sheets down at once and then started making marks. So this is like one of the first sheets I did, and you can see how there's so much water in it and it just kind of saturated out. And then I would come over with more marks later. This was probably some pine needles that I dipped and then drug across. This sheet was probably done after some of the water had dried out of it. So we're going to kind of do this, but this is kind of revamped for an indoor kind of sporty kind of thing rather than outside. You can do this outside. I'm not saying you shouldn't, but it's too cool right now this time of year, and I need more of these because this is all I have left. And although that's a nice, but I can go through these, and I need some more. And I thought, oh, this is a good opportunity to do it indoor version of it on a smaller scale and share it with you guys. So I'm gonna work on some smaller pieces, like 6 by 9, I think is the size I have. And I can't remember what weight it is. Hold on. I think this is 90 pound, and these are, okay, so these are 6 by 9 sheets, and I think this is 90 pound. This is like a lot heavier. I think that this is 100 pound or higher, and this is like 90 pound. It does have some tooth to it. It is thicker, but doing this indoors, we're gonna work smaller. So 6 by 9 sheets. You definitely want the thicker watercolor paper, the better. The more water, the better. So I'm gonna prep my space by putting on top of my workspace, I'm gonna put a trash bag. And then I'm gonna put some fabric over the top of that because I want the fabric to get any of, and this is fabric that was saving to be stained or anything like that. So I want it to have some of that color. And I think I'm gonna make a couple sheets in the black and white, like my originals. But then I was thinking of going with some color, and I think that would be really fun on the fabric as well. And you're gonna need a spray bottle, unless you want to drench your sheets in the sink and bring them to your space and then have your spray bottle available. That's an option too. So, and then you're gonna need either some India ink, some drawing ink, or some acrylic ink. And yeah, and we're gonna throw some inks around and have fun. So that's what's going on for this month's Technique Tuesday. All right, so I have my space set up with this plastic bag, and underneath it is some under paper, just in case I have liquid that goes. And I do have art towels at the ready. My paper's dry right now. I haven't wet it down yet. And I have tools, and I have my inks. Right here are the India ink and the drawing ink and black, and then I have some 2 really bright colorful acrylic inks that are at the ready. So today for tools, I'm going to try using an old feather that I've used on other things, so we'll see how that does. A palette knife, a fan brush, a couple of skewers, this little piece of cardboard that came out of a shoe that I've been wanting to kind of see what kind of marks I can get. A small and a large bamboo brush. So there's a big extreme in the difference in size of these two. I used to carry this one in my shop, but they went like hotcakes. As you can probably see why. This is a beautiful bamboo calligraphy Yatsumoto brush, and it is like almost like a mop brush. It's really thick and holds a lot. And then this one is the same type of brush but a different size, and so we'll see how those go. And so that's where we're going to get started. So the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to get my tools and everything off my plastic area, and I'm going to actually work with 2 sheets at a time. And so I'm going to go get 2 of these pretty saturated in water, and then I'm going to come back. I also have at the ready my spray bottle of water in case I want to lighten up anything that comes on top. So one of the things that I had done when I did this outside was had a flowing a hose at the ready. So not only were they initially saturated with water from the hose, and then I did the ink work, and then I could come over and see what happened when you added water on top of it, and then you just lay them out to dry. For these circumstances, I'm actually gonna line dry these with my, I always wanna call these paper clips because I always clip paper with them, but with my clothespins. And you'll need to do that over a drain or over towels or something like that, because these are going to be really saturated. So I'm going to go get these wet, and I'll be right back. All right, now these are very saturated, but I'm going to go ahead and give them a spritz a little bit. And I have 2 papers are in my stencil cleaning tray soaking, so these won't have soaked as much as the other ones, but we'll see what a difference it makes. So I'm gonna start. Well, that just does not want to pour very well. I mean, squirt very well. Oh, fun. You can already see some of the fun happening here. So I just dipped my feather in my paint water, just to clean it off a little bit. So that's fun. This took a little bit longer to spread down here because it was actually already starting to get dry. So I'm really pleased with that. I'm just gonna let that go a little bit. Now it might get some residuals. I'm gonna get this a little wet again. So I'm gonna use this fan brush and work on trying to get some splatters. And we might get some over here too and everywhere else. This is just very Russia or whatever that word is. Okay. Fun stuff. And again, I'm just cleaning that brush off right away. I don't want that ink to dry into it. All right, this is just, these almost look like the Lorax trees to me. I don't know, they've got a real organic feel. All right, so I'm gonna get these swapped out for the others. I did want to say that I do have these are from like the Dollar Tree. They're like cutting boards, those plastic cutting boards. I have these and I'm gonna actually, to transfer them, I'm gonna let this dry a little bit before I hang it because it's really wet and I don't want stuff to move too much. So I'm gonna just gently slide these on here and let them dry a bit so they're not dripping too much all over the place. Like that, and then I'll be right back with the other. That is neat. Bold. Go down. And you can really see how, here's where the water is lighter. You can really see how doing this outside on large paper, you'll have more room to kind of experiment on one piece. Here we're using multiple slices of paper to do different techniques on, see what we like. But in the warmer weather, we can definitely experiment or take this information to larger sheets. So I'm actually going to sop this up with some fabric. Initially, I was going to put the fabric underneath the plastic sheets, but I decided to have it more at the ready for us cleaning up. So this is just t-shirt fabric that I like to dye and use. I also have some bed sheet fabric to do the same. Now I have been getting these brushes wet before I insert them into the ink. Okay, now I was thinking of kind of combining some of the black with the acrylic ink to see how it reacts on the surface. And then I was thinking, I have a little bit left of this black in here. I'm going to kind of get some water in it to get it drippy. Look at that. See if we can't drip it from a high spot and see how it looks. Okay, I'm just going to use the dripper in this, just similar to what we did here on the paper. It'll be interesting to see how these dry. And FYI, if you don't like to have your hands colored, you might want to wear gloves, because this is India ink is hard to get off. It takes days sometimes. So I have those drying now, but I thought I'd pull these back out. And on this one, I had done mark making. It was very saturated. I went back over it with the hose and got some of those ink marks to kind of dissipate into the paper more and spread out, so they look like they go to the background. And then I came in with ink afterwards when it was more dry and made these marks. It was a little bit wetter. Here you can tell because we had some bleed out, but less here. And on this one, I obviously did something of similar to that. It was so long ago, I barely remember, but I do remember I took this, I'm not sure if it was this exact brush, but a 3-inch flat brush, and made marks in the ink across. And of course, being outside, I was able to make bigger marks over bigger paper with bigger brushes. But there's lots to be said for space when you can do that. But I did want to share those with you before we started to go through some of what they look like when they're dry, and make decisions on whether we want to come back in, make marks, see how, if they're even a little bit wet in the center of the paper, how they react, or if we want to go back over and kind of spray them again. I also wanted to show you, this is that fabric that it's pretty sopping, but this is that fabric that I've been going through and cleaning up with. And as you can see, it has some really neat, like I like where the white is, where it got crinkled up and paint went soaked in, but spread out, but not where it was tightly done. So that's kind of interesting. You can see where there was gesso from a prior use, and looks like when I had the splotches here, this was all wrapped up in a way, and when I would go down and get it, it would make that mark and then spread into other areas. So anyways, this will be fun to use maybe in tandem with those papers. I don't know, because they all are on the same color scheme, so that's kind of fun too. But I'm going to hang this to dry. I might want to spray this down just so that if it's going to react, the ink, the India ink there, that it can. Usually when it's dry, but so some of that may be India ink, and some may have been the De La Rowney black ink that I put on secondarily. So let that kind of pull out and do its thing, and then hang this up to dry as well. And once it's dry, I'll show you the results of that. All right, so let's take a look at these. These are all the black ink ones. These kind of look like wings to me. I think this was the peacock looking one. It kind of doesn't look too much like a peacock feather anymore, but I still really like how it turned out. This is really neat how this is right here. That happens when the paper is dry in spots and still pretty saturated in others. I really like this. It almost looks like a landscape. So these I'm going to keep as is and not do anything further. I think on these I'm going to do, take this feather and do some of the ink. I'm going to wet down the feather and then kind of drag it through. And this is completely dry. Let's see what we get in terms of additional kind of marks that we can make. So you can do something like that and then just leave them nice and bold with that, the softened kind of image in the back. So put that aside to dry. And then I was thinking of doing the palette knife. It's kind of wet, and I was going to get it in this ink. And see about making some interesting marks with it. And then coming back in with a spray bottle and seeing what it does. I like that, how it wicks out. Oh, that's kind of interesting. Get some kind of bolder stuff going on, just more information. But that just gives you some ideas of some additional things you can do. And you just really need to see what you like and then just play with it depending on what your tools are, what kind of paper, how it's responding, what kind of inks you're using, that kind of thing. I think that'll be fun to play with. So let's take a look at the multicolored ones that we did. I think it's interesting how it started to separate in here, even though the pink really got muddled. It definitely left a pattern. And then right in here, how the green reacted with the black, with these like finger-like areas. I really like that. And this pink and next to the green, got kind of an orange going on in areas. Similar here. I may have gotten a little carried away. So this one, I actually purposely stopped with just that. This was the Amsterdam Turquoise Blue acrylic ink. I kind of envisioned going in with a paint pen and doing some doodles in there, either in white or in black. But I just could envision that. I think I really want to come into this one and explore that more with adding some dramatic black ink marks. So let's go into that some more, as well as this one. I think it just needs to be pushed a little bit, so I thought maybe we could play with that one a little bit more. And then there is this one. It still hasn't quite finished drying right there. And we can do something where you blot it up and it leaves a kind of nice, interesting mark. But I really liked how the little dots showed up here. That was from sprinkling. Can't see them so much in this one, but we sprinkled some water on there and it kind of reversed out a little bit. But I didn't want to make any changes to that. I kind of really liked this area and right in here. Kind of come back into these. All right, so here are the pages that we reworked and added some more marks. I then went in and sprayed them. They did desaturate a little bit, but we still have some areas of dark contrast there, so that's pretty nice. This is really, I think, quite yummy because it has the real dark, it kind of splays out, kind of looks like it's in the foreground, and this looks in the background. So that will go along with our blacks that we did not rework. And then here are the colors that we reworked. And I wish I would have gone in here and made some more of these marks in here. Excuse me. But I really like how when we pumped up the volume on the pink, that really came through. I really love how this all ended up working out. It looks so scratchy and grungy. I love it. Very glad that we pumped up both the green and the pink and went in with some additional black, so we got that contrast there. And this was a real big surprise. I don't know, just gave it more interest to have more concentrated in the color areas, and I'm glad we didn't do anything additional with the black. So these will go along with our color ones that we did not make any changes to. And yeah, we got quite a few to be working with over the next however long it takes. I mean, these were from 2014, 2015, something like that. Oh, and then the other thing I noticed is that some of these had some interesting backs to them. So they could be dual. This is just from the plastic sheets I ended up putting them on. But yeah, they could be used front or back on some of these. This one's quite interesting. Kind of cosmic almost. I don't think we got much on these. Oh, maybe we did. Nice. Not much there. A little bit. That's kind of neat. That's really cool. So anyways, I hope that you have found that this has helped you with another idea to add to your plethora, your fodder, that you can pull out and use in any of your collage, or even these would make really wonderful journal pages. A nice place to get started with whatever you're gonna then take to it. So yeah, thank you for coming along and watching. I do appreciate you, and so grateful that you are here. If you do like what you're seeing here on my channel, please consider hitting that like button. If you're subscribed already, I thank you, and if you haven't, wouldn't you consider subscribing to my channel? Thank you.